Hey everyone, in the previous video we implemented the UI for the storage system, but right now the UI is just showing placeholder data. So in this video, we look at how to show our real data in the storage UI instead of showing placeholder data. Alright, so let's look at how to implement that. By the way, you can support the making of the series on Patreon and get access to some cool rewards like the complete project files of the series, exclusive tutorials, and access to the Discord community. There is even an entire course on Patreon that covers the creation of a 3D Pokemon game like this. So if you ever wanted to learn to create 3D RPGs, then check out this course on Patreon. The first few videos are free to watch if you want to just try it out. So first, let's look at how to show our party data on the left side of the storage UI. So to do that, first we need to get references of all the party slots from these box slots, right? So these slots contains both the party slots and the storage slots, which we'll be using to store our Pokemon. So right now all these slots are stored in the same list. So we need to separate them into two different lists. So the first thing I'll do is I'll create two separate scripts for those two slots. All right. So inside scripts, inside the UI folder, first I'll create a script called box party slot UI. So this will be attached to our party slots. And then I'll create another script called box storage slot UI. Okay, and this will be attached to our storage slots. So first let me open up the party slot UI script. And for the party slot, we need reference to the Pokemon name text, label text, and the image of the Pokemon, right? So let me define those references in this class. So first I'll create a serialized field reference for the name text, and then I'll create one for the level text, and then I'll create one for the image of the Pokemon. Okay, and in here I'll create a public function for setting data into these fields. So this function will take the Pokemon whose data we need to set. Okay, so from here first let me set the name text. All right, and then I'll set the level text. So we need to convert this into a string, and then I'll set the image of the Pokemon so we can get the string sprite. Okay, so now just like the data, I'll also create another function for clearing the data. Okay, and from this function we can clear everything. So I'll clear the name text, the level text, and we can set the sprite to null. All right, but just clearing the sprite of the image won't be enough, because if you go to Unity and try clearing the sprite of an image, the color of the image will still be displayed, right? So just clearing the sprite is not enough. We also have to make the color transparent by setting its alpha to 0. Okay, so let's do that from here. So I'll say image.color equal to new color of 255, 255, 255, which is the code for white. And then for the alpha, I'll set 0. Okay, so this will make that image transparent and the color won't be shown when we clear it. Okay, so since we are making it transparent, we have to make it opaque when we set the sprite. So from here I'll set it to 100. Okay, so that is all we need. in the box party slot. So next let's implement the box storage slot. All right. So here we just need the image. So let me just copy and paste the code from the party slot. And let me import the Unity Engine UI namespace. And we don't need the lines for setting text. So I'll remove those. So yeah, this is all we need in the box storage slot UI. All right. So now from our storage UI, we have to separate our box slots into storage slots and party slots, right? So we can do that by checking if they have the party slot UI component or the storage slot UI component. So first we need to attach these scripts to our slots. So I'll go inside the box slot prefab and I'll assign the box storage slot UI, and I'll also assign the image to the image field. Okay. And then we need to assign the party slot UI to the box party slot. All right. And here we need to assign the name text, the level text, and the Pokemon image. Okay. So now we'll be able to differentiate between party slots and storage slots by getting the script that is attached to them. Okay. So in the storage UI, I'll create two other lists. So the first one will be a list of box party slot UI. I'll just call this party slots. Okay. And then I'll also create another list of box storage slot. Okay, I'll just call this storage slots. All right. And then from the awake function, we can separate the box slots into party slots and storage slots. So from here, I loop through all the box slots. Okay. And for each box slot, I'll call get component and I'll try to get the box storage slot UI first. Okay. And let me store this in a variable called storage slot. And if storage slot is not null, it means this box slot is a storage slot. So we can add that to the storage slots list. Okay. And otherwise, we can add it to the party slot list, right? So to the party slot, we have to add the box storage slot UI. So we have to use the get component function again on the box slot. Okay. Okay, not the box storage slot UI. We have to use the box party slot UI since this is party slots. All right. So now we have separated the box slots into party slots and storage slots. So now we can set data into these slots pretty easily. So for setting data, I'll create two other functions. First one will be called set data in party slots, and second one will be called set data in storage slot. Okay. So in the case of party slot, we can just use a for loop to loop through all the party slots that we have, right? And then we can set the data of each member in our party into the party slot by using the set data function. But from here, first we need the data of our party, right? We have that in the Pokemon party function. I meant Pokemon party class. And here we have a static function for getting the player's party. So we can use that. All right, so let me define the Pokemon party in here. And from the awake, I'll get the Pokemon party by using the get player party static function. Okay, so from here, we can set the data of our party members into the party slots. So I'll check if I is less than party.pokemons.count. So if that's the case, then we can set the data to the party slots. Okay, and otherwise, if we don't have 6 Pokemon, then we can just clear all the other slots by calling party slots of I.clear. Okay, the same thing that we have been doing in functions like this. So I'm not going to explain those again. So next, in the storage slot, we can do the same. We can loop through each storage slot, and right now we don't have a component like Pokemon Party for storing the Pokemon in the boxes. We'll be creating that soon. For now, let's just clear the storage slot so that everything will be empty. All right. So now we can call these functions and set the data when we enter the Pokemon storage state. So from the enter function of the storage state, after enabling the storage UI, I'll go ahead and call storage UI dot set data in party slots and also set data in storage slots. All right. So now if we go to Unity and try opening the box, we should see the actual data of our party members here, right? So that is working fine. So next, we need a way of storing Pokemons in box. So we just have the UI for it. We don't have a way to store Pokemons in box. So let's go ahead and create that. So for storing Pokemon in boxes, we can create a script like our Pokemon party script that has a list of Pokemons, right? So just like the script, I'll create another script called Pokemon storage boxes. All right. So this class will store a list of Pokemon, but I don't want to store the Pokemon as list over here. Instead, I want to store it as a two-dimensional array. All right. So I'll explain why I'm doing that in a minute. But first, let me create a two-dimensional array like this. All right. So the reason why I'm creating a two-dimensional array instead of a list is because while storing the Pokemon in boxes, we can also have multiple number of boxes, right? So under each box, we can have 30 Pokemon, but we can also have other boxes like box 2, box 3, etc. Right. So the first layer of this array will be used to store the boxes, and the second layer will be used to store the Pokemon. All right. So we have to specify the length of the array here. So let's say we can have up to 16 boxes, and in each box we can have 30 slots for storing Pokemon. All right. So this is how I'll be storing our Pokemon. So next, let me create public functions for storing and retrieving Pokemon from these boxes. I prefer to use public functions instead of publicly exposing the boxes because using public functions will neatly encapsulate this two-dimensional array. Okay, so first let me create a public function called add Pokemon. So this will take a Pokemon, the box to which we have to add the Pokemon. So we can take that as the index of the box, and then also the slot to which we have to add the Pokemon. So we can take that as the slot index. Okay, and from this function, we just have to add the Pokemon to the box. So I'll say boxes of box index, comma slot index equal to Pokemon. Okay, so this is how we work with two-dimensional arrays. The first layer specifies in which box we want to store, and the second one indicates the slot inside the box where we want to store it. Okay, so next I'll copy this and I'll create another function called remove Pokemon. So in this case, we don't have to pass the Pokemon as the parameter. We can just set it to null. Okay, so next I'll create another public function called get Pokemon. So even here we have to pass the box index and the slot index. Okay, and from here we can just return the Pokemon at those indexes. All right, and also this function has to return a Pokemon. So yeah, these are the basic public functions we need. So next, we want to be able to access the Pokemon storage boxes from our storage UI, right? So just like we do for our Pokemon party, we can create a static function like this that'll get the players' storage boxes. All right, we'll be attaching this to our player so we can get a reference to it like this. So let me create a public static function over here and I'll call this get players storage boxes. Okay, and from here, just like we do for the Pokemon party, we can get the player's reference using find object of type and then return the Pokemon storage boxes. All right, so we haven't specified the return type here. So let me also specify that and that should fix the error. Okay, so now from the storage UI, just like we get the Pokemon party, we can also get the Pokemon storage boxes. I'll just call it storage boxes and I'll get an instance to it from the awake function. Okay, and now while showing data in storage slots, we can use the data stored in the storage boxes. Right, so from this for loop, first I'll retrieve the Pokemon from the storage box by using the get Pokemon function. So here we have to pass the box index and slot index. So right now we don't have a way to switch boxes, so we can pass 0, and for the slot index we can pass I, right? So this will be the currently selected box. We can actually create a variable for it, which we can use later when we implement the code for changing boxes. So here I'll create a public property called selected box. Okay, I'll just create it with the private setter and I'll set its value to 0 by default. All right, and now from here we can use that property. All right, so we'll try to retrieve the Pokemon at these indexes, and then if the Pokemon is not null, then we can set the data of that Pokemon in our storage slot, right? So I'll call storage slots of I dot set data and I'll pass the Pokemon. Okay, and otherwise if the Pokemon is null, then we can just call the clear data function. All right, so now we are taking the data to show in the storage slots from our Pokemon storage boxes. But if you test the game right now, the storage slots will be empty because right now we're not adding any Pokemon to our boxes, right? We need to implement the code for moving Pokemon between our party and boxes and all that. But right now we don't have that. So when we run the game, the boxes will still be empty. And by the way, before we run, we have to attach the Pokemon storage boxes to the player. All right. And now if I try running it, you can see that the boxes are still empty, even though we are getting the data from the Pokemon storage boxes, right? So the reason for that is because we don't have any Pokemons right now in our boxes. So just for testing this, what we can do is we can try adding a Pokemon manually to the storage box, right? So I'll call storage boxes.add Pokemon, and for the Pokemon, I'll just take the first Pokemon from our party, okay? And I'll add it to an index like 0, and let's see if it appears in the UI. Alright, so you can see that it is appearing in the UI. We can also try adding another Pokemon. So let's say I want to add the Pokemon at index 2, and I want to add it to the 20th slot in our boxes. And let me try running the game now. Okay, and let me open the boxes. So yeah, you can see that it is working. We have a Pokemon in the 0th slot and the 20th slot. So now we are taking the data from the Pokemon storage boxes. But right now we're just adding the Pokemon manually. Instead of this, we need a way to move the Pokemon from our party to boxes and back. But instead of this, we need a way to move the Pokemon from party to boxes and from boxes to party also. So we'll be implementing that in the next video. So I'll stop the video here. If you think this video is helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.